Hello, and welcome to Binging the Force with the Rocky Mountain Fan Force, a live stream where we watch Star Wars and talk over the show, but only in a good way. Tonight I'm joined by some other people. I don't know where they are. There they are. I'm joined by Michael, the producer guy, also the Galacticon actual guy. I'm joined by Jonathan, a.k.a. Die Womprat Die.
Hello.
And I'm joined by James, who is perfectly happy with his own name and doesn't need a goofy.
He's the city representative of the Rocky Mountain Fan Force. He doesn't need any further accolades.
Yeah, he doesn't need to crow about that. He's comfortable. All right. Tonight we're going to be watching The Mandalorian Chapter 12, The Siege, which is an action-packed episode that features the return of several characters from the first season. Carl Weathers as Greef Karga, Gina Carano as Cara Dune, and Horatio Sands as Mithral, who was Mando's bounty in the very first episode of Season 1. This episode is directed by Carl Weathers, and it shows. It's filled with action. It's also what I like to call a toy box episode. It features the Imperial Troop Transport, which was a toy design before it was ever on screen, in what I can only call a starring role, and shows us that the showrunners of The Mandalorian clearly have a lot of affection for the Star Wars toys produced by Kenner throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s. You could argue, I think, that those Kenner toys had more of an impact on fans of a certain age than actual movies did. Any fan who grew up in the late 70s and early 80s before home video came along, would have spent a lot more time playing with the toys than actually watching the films, and I think it's pretty clear that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are no exception. All of that, long-winded speechifying, brings me to our question for this week. When we were kids, we all played with Star Wars toys, yes?
Yes.
So my question for the panel tonight is, as an adult, what is something you like to do to interact with the Star Wars universe now, other than watching it on screen and talking about it on a live stream? Do you do costumes? Do you collect merchandise? Do you play video games? Do you read all the books and comics, or is it something else? And if you do still play with your Star Wars toys, that is a valid answer.
Man, this is the time the time we really need Dale with his entire.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm sad that Dale's not here. Well, who wants to go first?
Actually, James, don't you have a toy room too? Or
I have some stuff. I don't have a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I'm more of a fan of the books and the novels. James Luceno, Claudia Gray, of course, Timothy Zahn. Kind of got me back into Star Wars in the mid '90s when he kind of was the first kind of novel to come out and kind of kicked off the universe again. And then of course all the legends stuff came through as well. And actually, I'm thinking about going back and reading some of the legend stuff. I've read a lot of canon stuff, but I love Chuck Wendig. His Aftermath series was really good. Really kind of like that era of the universe as far as after the Empire, what happens to all these ex-Imperials. What did they do? They kind of lurk in the outer rim, and you're kind of waiting for something to happen. And
So James, do you read the books now? Are you still into what they're putting out now? High Republic and young adult stuff?
Yeah, I like a lot of that stuff. And I also, I'm also thinking about going back and doing a lot of the comics. I have not done a lot of the comics, and there's a lot of really good material there, I've heard. So I know there's a really good Darth Vader series, and there's a bunch out there too that even within the last 5 years or so that's supposed to be really good. So
since Marvel took over doing the comic book, they've done a lot of interesting stuff, I think.
Yeah.
What about you, Jonathan?
I am of that certain age for sure. When I was a kid, I had the Return of the Jedi was a movie that I saw in the theater, and so that was a lot of the toys that I had and kind of collected backwards when I was able to convince my parents to buy toys for me. Kind of the crown jewel when I was a kid that I had the Star Destroyer that looked nothing like a Star Destroyer, and it was tall, blue and gray, and it was weird, but I could put my figures in it, which was awesome.
I remember that toy. It was meant to be like the bridge of the Star Destroyer.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I guess. Sure. And you could spin characters in it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I still have it. It's out of my garage. And then, I grew up in my teens, 20s, early 30s. I was like James over here. I was reading the books. I was totally into the expanding universe. There was not a Star Wars book that escaped me reading it. and the same for all the Dark Horse comics that were coming out too. And then, but just kind of later, like I have to admit, my Star Wars fandom has kind of waxed and waned over the years, right? So I think that's pretty normal. I mean, no offense to everybody who's hardcore Star Wars every day of their lives, but just things happen in life. And so, I think one way that I'm really experiencing and enjoying Star Wars now is through my son's toys, right? So my 9-year-old boy, having him honestly gives me an excuse to buy more Star Wars toys. They're for him, I promise.
Yeah, your son's toys, they're for
right.
him.
Sometimes we share. So yeah. And but not only that, but we also share the experience of watching the shows on Disney Plus. So, he does like to watch The Mandalorian. He's not into like the kiddie Star Wars stuff, me neither. But we do enjoy watching a lot of that stuff that's on Disney Plus. And and honestly, it's my friends. So through the Rocky Mountain Fan Force, other Colorado Star Wars groups, those are all great people. They do cosplay for great causes, and so when you get to see them at like conventions, like for example the upcoming Denver convention here, it's great to reconnect with them, say hi, see what they're doing. So it's that avenue. Star Wars is that avenue to be able to talk to and learn about other people. So. And even strangers, like if they come up to a table at a convention, or if I'm doing a panel or something, it's that way to connect with somebody who you may not otherwise be able to. So it's a lot of fun for Star Wars to be able to do all those things.
I mean,
that shared experience is a good conversation starter.
JT kind of covered a lot for me there. I was going to say probably one of the biggest obvious does ever for me. It's obviously conventions has been a big way for me to kind of stay in touch with science fiction and always be involved in that from a social level. Being part of them, running them, all that kind of stuff. But then also he touched on something I hadn't really thought of as an answer to it, which is watching everything with my daughter, with my 12-year-old, who was on the show last week. Obviously, she's kind of joined into the passion of it, and particularly the newer stuff. But then also she's actually made a point of wanting to watch all the previous movies, and we've sat and we've done binges of some of the other older Star Wars content on Disney Plus and stuff. I mean, having that as an easy mechanism to just throw on stuff. I mean, she does the same thing a lot with MCU too, but between the MCU and Star Wars, I mean, she'll in a lack of things to do, she'll throw on Disney Plus and just start watching, one of the previous Star Wars movies, or particularly she loves the prequel trilogy. We always said that for us, that was not for us. There's that our generation who grew up with the second trilogy, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy had so many problems and it was so problematic, and we all complained about everything. Kids love it. It connected with the exact audience that George Lucas intended it to connect with.
Right.
That's how a lot of kids got introduced to it, right? Our kids, and essentially, especially my oldest one's still a Star Wars fan, and that's how she got introduced, right? And right around 99 or whatever, 20 some years ago. Yeah.
Sure. And the problem with being adult fans is that we want Star Wars to be serious and adult like it was when we were 5.
Right.
We want it to make us feel like it did when we were children watching it. And of course it's never going to do that again.
No, because it does that for a child who's 5 or 9 or 12,
my wife and I have been doing a rewatch of the whole saga over the last, it's taken us about a year or so. So we had occasion to rewatch Phantom Menace recently. And I watching it, I was thinking, this is a children's movie. It's a really good children's movie, but it's a children's movie. And that's I don't see that as a problem. I see that as, I think that's probably what it needed to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's how franchise survives, right? Is you can't keep it to one person, one generation. If you're smart and you're able to do that, like Star Wars has, then you're going to be successful for a long, long time. And, but you don't hear much nowadays about how the sequel trilogy appeals to a certain generation or a certain age. Right? Like I don't hear people say, "Oh, the sequels are my Star Wars," right? Maybe
that generation get a lot of news coverage. I don't know. Is there a lot of interviews of the current 5 to 9 to 12-year-olds?
That's fantastic. Proves the point. Lucasfilm was doing something right. Hopefully, Star Wars is forever and will continue.
Yeah. I'm sure. Sure.
I think easily, we'll have to see, because since there is a plan to continue Rey, we'll have to see what the response is. I'd say if that movie is a hit, then we'll know that generation. Because I know for my daughter, I mean, who her big thing in sci-fi is always looking for strong female leads. Is if something doesn't have that, she's not going to be really into it. If there wasn't a Princess Leia, if there wasn't a Rey, she would not be into it. And so I predict, I mean, depending on how long it takes for the thing to get made or come out, if it ever does, that her generation, will be teenagers at that time, and they'll have that buying power to decide what movies they go to see, and then we'll know whether the sequel trilogy really hit or not.
Sure. All right, well, my answer to tonight's question is it's kind of similar to Jonathan's, actually. I am an extremely avid tabletop gamer. I play a lot of board games and role-playing games and stuff like that, and that's my social outlet. That's all my friends here in Portland. That's how we met, is through tabletop gaming.
Cool.
And so one of my favorite tabletop games is a Star Wars game. I happen to have the box right here. It's called Outer Rim.
Ooh.
And it is a really cool board game.
You brought props.
I did. I brought a prop. So in Outer Rim, it's about all the smugglers and scoundrels and bounty hunters. So you get to play either you choose at the start of the game whether you're going to play a smuggler or a bounty hunter or some other scoundrelly character, and you move around the board picking up cargo and looking for bounties and trying to avoid Imperial patrols. And it's a lot of fun. It's actually one of my favorite board games, period, and definitely my favorite Star Wars game.
That's cool. So is there a character or type that you usually pick?
It seems like I usually get bounty hunters off. Usually when we play, we choose randomly.
Yeah.
But it seems like I almost always get bounty hunters. I think I was IG-88 the last time we played. So yeah, all the characters that you choose from are characters from the.
Oh, you don't make up your own.
You don't make up your own. The game is meant to take place more or less at the time of the Han Solo movie. And so it's all characters that would have been around during that era. So you can be Han or Lando or Boba Fett or any number of. There's a few from the books and a few characters from Clone Wars that.
So a couple years, like 5 years before, I guess, Episode 4.
I thought it was closer to 10.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my impression. But yeah, it's a great game. It's one of many that.
Way back when the Rocky Mountain Fan Force was primarily the Denver chapter of Fan Force, the international group that all functioned primarily through a bulletin board or bulletin board website called theforce.net. We all had our board names and our avatars and everything, and IG-88 was my avatar for a very long time. So one of my favorite Star Wars characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that. Mine was Watto. Because he at the time that you're talking about, I was running a comic shop in Denver, and Watto was the only shopkeeper I could think of from. Right.
So I just want to say, if we're kind of closing out on that, I just want to mention something and note about our guest star and director of tonight's episode, Carl Weathers. The Hollywood Chamber of Commerce released the information today about what stars are going to get stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2024, and Carl Weathers is on that list.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's going to get a star on the Walk of Fame. Now, what's interesting is stars on the Walk of Fame, you get a star and you're in a category. So you're either film or television or music or different forms of entertainment. And so the symbol, there's like a little glyph that is on your name. So it's your name and then the little symbol that denotes what category your star is. And actually some celebrities who have been music stars and movie stars and TV stars have multiple stars on the Walk of Fame.
Wow.
So they've been so popular over such a long period of time and had such varied career that they get multiple stars for multiple reasons. Ooh. Carl Weathers, I found very interesting, is getting his star as a sports star.
Interesting.
Which, I mean, he was on the Oakland Raiders for one season.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he was an NFL player, but and the year that he was an Oakland Raider, they did go to the AFC Championship game. So, I mean, he was a player of some renown for the one season. He was cut the second year and then parlayed that into acting. So it's like, I find it interesting that he is getting a star, but he's getting a star as a sports star. I don't know if it's maybe just people think of him still as his Rocky character that he.
I was about to say he's sort of a boxer.
Yeah, but he never was a boxer. He was an NFL player for 1 year.
So I wonder if it's a situation where they want to give him a star for something, but the actor category is full or something.
Yeah,
like
and there were quite a few actors in both the TV and the film categories who got announced today. So for 2024.
Do you happen to know, Michael? I didn't realize they gave him to musicians also. Does Prince have a star?
Oh, I'm sure he must. I'd be shocked if he didn't. I don't know for sure, but I'd be shocked if he didn't. Yeah, I know last year I went to LA with my daughter and we spent a bunch of time. We just kind of hung out around Hollywood Boulevard for a couple of days, almost a week, like 3-4 days. And we did a lot of walking up and down the stars. And I realized that, like, okay, if I have to find a career in retirement, that I probably could make money just getting paid to walk along the Walk of Fame and take money from tourists to tell them stories, because so many of younger people walk through that Walk of Fame and see names that they just don't know anything about. And as I was walking with my then 11-year-old daughter, and I'm like going from star to star, and I've got like 5 to 10 minutes of stories about every single celebrity name, just because I've got so much crap jammed into this brain that I call serviceable, and try to pass as a functional human being. But I mean, other people would start following us and start listening to stories about like every single star and having something to say about every celebrity name, and having like the star of Law and Order SVU and have her star next to Jane Mansfield, who people don't know now is her famous mother,
right.
who passed away when she was young, who was a very big star, and now I'm blanking on the name of the star of Law and Order SVU.
Mariska Hargitay.
Yeah, because she was actually the daughter of a famous father who was a famous bodybuilder, Mickey Hargitay, who was played in a movie by Arnold Schwarzenegger, because that's who looked like him, and then Jane Mansfield, a famous actress bombshell, and they put their stars all next to each other on the Walk of Fame, And so I was able to tell her the whole story there, and there was like a crowd of people starting to crowd around, like me telling these kind of stories. So like,
you might have your hat out when you're telling the story.
Yeah, there's my retirement plan.
It's better than working at Walmart as a Walmart greeter.
Yeah. Well, should we watch some Star Wars?
Yep, let's get into it.
Do it.
All right, so we're already seeing our returning characters there.
Yep, there's this guy.
He previously on kind of reminds us of these characters from the first season.
Mm-hmm. Stuff you need to know to understand this episode.
Yep. Yeah, he was literally the bounty for the first episode. So we're going
very first scene. Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting in that shot we just saw how different his armor looked. Right?
Yeah,
because he's been improving his armor over the course of the
show. When he had his busted armor. Yep.
There's Dr. Pershing.
Dr. Pershing, Omid Abtahi, Galacticon guest.
Yeah. You can ask him all kinds of questions about his experience on the show. Here's more Toy Box stuff. This show really is like watching a kid's toy box come to life.
Yeah, I mean, that's if I was going to make Star Wars, that's what I would do. Heck yeah.
Question is, do they make a junky version of the Razor Crest? Different versions, right?
I think you have to make your
off.
own.
You can take cameras off and try to rebuild it.
The easiest solution to that is Lego.
Yeah.
There's all the Star Wars heads.
Yeah, the droid intro. I know they've now started varying that, and then it was droid intro, but then the Mandalorian helmet at the end.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes it has clone helmets.
Oh, yeah,
too.
I know that now, like they've really shaken it up. Like for a long time, it was just droids, and then now, like there's a lot of different kind of images there.
Yeah, characters they don't have to pay likeness rights for.
Yeah, so now we've got the Razor Crest that is being held together literally by
string and chewing gum,
by baling wire there. Yeah,
baling wire.
Well, it's hopefully not just a hunk of junk like the Millennium Falcon. Hopefully, it works slightly better, but a common Star Wars trope here.
Yeah, but I don't think we ever saw the Millennium Falcon this beat up.
Right. So, do we think that is he just unsuccessful and too broke, or is he just too busy to fix his ship?
I mean, I think it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, I think it's like he's got a destination, and I mean, he's in between planets. He's trying to make it to the next planet to even be able to pay someone for repairs, you know. But it's interesting here that he's actually, you know, we're several seasons in. We have not seen the child speak. The child still does not have a name at this point. He's trying to give him instructions, and he's trying to, you know, speak to him and tell him red, blue, you know, without having any sense of him understanding what he's saying, what he's telling him to do, trying to have him do repairs because only the child can fit into the space there, and obviously that's not going well based on a lot of smoke that just came out.
It's like, I am Groot.
That doesn't mean you send a toddler in though.
Right.
Do electrical work.
Yeah.
A little bit dangerous.
I mean, Grogu here could be colorblind. We have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, or just
Red, blue, I don't know.
not speak standard. I mean, that's the thing. We assume they're speaking standard, and the child may have no conception of what he's saying.
Right.
Well, you know,
Oh,
it's
he grew up
the
in the
funny
Jedi
thing
Temple.
about Star Wars is that they make a big deal about all these different cultures having different languages, but at the same time, not understanding people is never really a plot point. Even Jabba the Hutt speaks his own language, and Luke speaks English, and they still are. Clearly they understand what the other characters are saying. So,
Well, but he did have an interpreter droid. I mean, I believe that's you know, the C-3PO or the what they call the protocol droid. I mean, I believe that's one of the functions of the protocol droid is in those situations to be translators.
Here's the
walrus guy.
Well, yeah, the walrus guys. More action figures. And they're about to eat a squirrel cat thing.
No, don't kill it. Oh.
Yeah, walrus got to eat, man.
Yeah, well, okay.
Well, it's just like chicken. What are you going to do?
Well, it seems like they'd be more interested in eating fish.
That seems slightly racist to me. I'm not sure.
Okay, I retract my comment. You're right. You're absolutely right. The walrus, the Aqualish lobby will be all over this.
And now we see Cara Dune come back and they immediately say it's the Marshal. So we now know that she has a new position. She's a Marshal. I mean, I believe we saw her accepting that job when we last saw her.
Right, but she's appointed by Greef Karga, though, right?
Yeah.
So there's no like official government entity that's handing out these marshal jobs.
Well, he is a government entity, I believe, at this point.
Yeah, I think he's a self-proclaimed one, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they're all these outer rim type places.
Yeah.
They just kind of set up their own little government, whatever that
point to the outer rim is the Wild West.
Now she blasts somebody. Why did it take her so long to blast somebody? They're all blasting her, and she's like, "I'll just use this dude as a shield instead of shooting back."
Well,
last resort.
She's clearly enjoying her work.
Whoa,
you
saved me.
You're no longer dinner. No one's eating you today.
I wonder if
Like
that's
a meerkat.
Wonder if that's a puppet or a CG. What do you think?
I mean, I'm sure it's probably a combo.
It kind of looked like a puppet when they were trying to eat it, anyways. I don't know.
I'm going to go with puppet. I think it is a puppet.
Yeah,
it's looking mostly like puppet. I mean,
like a Muppet.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they would spend the money for this small a character.
Well, I think if it is, there might be like little touches here or there. I mean, these days CGI is used for so many little subtle things that sometimes you never know that all they're doing is just fixing some tiny little thing with CGI.
Right.
It's not like
it gives it physical dimension that she can interact with, the character moment for her.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's, to me, that's successful CGI is the CGI.
Yeah,
that
when you can't tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely mostly animatronic look like.
Yeah, I think so. I shake my head every time I see this poor excuse for a ship.
But I love it.
It's flat.
I mean, it's a great ship. It's a great design for a ship.
It's a great ship with character.
Yes, it is. No, it's a great ship. It's just in really rotten shape right now.
Yes.
The ramp can't even come down.
Yeah.
Oh. Yep. See.
Well, it's
ramp is
doing the
broken.
best he can. That's what he's got.
Yeah.
Making his
like
way in
having
the
to
world.
jump down from the ramp.
How embarrassing.
but his armor is shiny and new.
Very well. He's got his priorities.
Yep.
He's going to take care of the armor.
Got to look good first.
Oh, and the first thing he asks is, "How's my credit?" So yeah, so I mean, he made it back here, and he needs the repairs, but I guess he is pretty low in funds at this point.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been doing any paid work. He's just been
Right.
driving around with Grogu.
The delivery of the eggs was basically the last paid work.
I don't think he got paid for that. Though.
Oh, you're
He just-
right. That was a barter thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, reunited with his little friend.
Yeah, and this is funny. You read a lot of interviews with actors on the show who talk about how lifelike the puppet is, the Grogu puppet, and how people do treat it like it's a real creature and not like a prop.
Yeah, it's just like the stories about Empire Strikes Back, right? Like the way you really believe Yoda's real is Luke's reaction to.
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
E.T. I mean, Drew Barrymore really believed E.T. was her friend. Yeah.
Well, I remember reading about when they were filming the first season of The Mandalorian. Apparently, Werner Herzog was absolutely fascinated by the Grogu puppet. He just would not. He couldn't take his eyes off of it.
We know exactly how he feels.
Yes, we do.
And the birth of billions of merchandising. Billions and billions of merchandising.
So it looks like Greef Karga here in the Marshal creating some stability.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a
Speaking of-
school. They've got a teacher.
Speaking of protocol droids.
Yeah.
Right, and we get a lot of nice callbacks in this episode to just visual elements from the original films, which I think is nice because it ties it more. I mean, I don't think they need to remind us that we're watching Star Wars, but I think it's nice when they do.
Yeah, with like the maps, and it's the old school, right? The
Right, and
or whatever of the galaxy.
yeah, that particular style of protocol droid is clearly the Honda Civic of droids.
And that's what it looks like at school. Like some of the kids are bored, some are gossiping, some are curious.
Sure.
Very realistic.
Yeah.
That's the Honda Civic. C-3PO, when he's gleaming and all polished and everything, does that make him a Toyota Corolla?
Yeah, maybe just the very common model.
Yep.
Oh, and here's Grogu thinking with his stomach
Still a
again.
thief. Still a food thief.
Kid is obsessed with food.
Yeah, it's always about the food. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a
Well, they didn't give him a lunchbox or anything. They just
I
drop
know.
him off as usual.
Well, and it's a through line through this season that I don't know if I noticed before. Food brings out the worst in him too, doesn't it?
Yeah,
He really just turns into a little
thinks with
jerk
his
when it
stomach
comes to
like
food.
Chewy.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess all he's doing is wanting the kid snacks. I mean, he's being polite. He's like putting his hand out, and he's asking. I mean, it could be worse. He could be actually trying to eat the child. So
Right. Which, yeah. He's already done enough of that, I think. Those cookies do look good, I have to. I don't know if I blame him.
Yeah, they're I mean, the macarons. Yeah.
Yeah, can't you buy those somewhere that are actually from Star Wars, or they're?
I know at
Like
least one
blue
person
and everything.
locally
I
who
think you
recreated
can.
them.
Yeah.
Dang.
Ooh.
I'll be disappointed when I go to Disney World in a few months. I'll be disappointed if I can't buy some
Yeah,
turquoise macaroons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here's this guy.
I believe you two have met. Yeah.
Pretty
Like,
exciting.
whatever that self-defense or scared system or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Nervous reaction.
It's the equivalent of him pooping his pants. Yep.
Yep.
So he works for Greef now as his accountant.
Yep. Magistrate Karga.
So kind of the theme of Star Wars is like everybody eventually goes straight, right?
Everyone eventually
That's
becomes
how
middle
does it-
management. Yeah.
Yeah, well, everyone eventually owes somebody else money and has to do horrible things to make up for it.
Yeah.
Or they're dead.
It's reasonably impressive that Carl Weathers directed this episode and is on screen a lot.
I think that's why he directed the episode.
Yeah, man. Yeah, these
It's a
things
good
may be
Greef Karga
related.
episode. I
Right.
can direct it.
Maybe he's angling for his own spin-off series. So this is fun. I noticed this. I watched this episode the other day. The base that they're about to go and attack is the same base from Rogue One, the base on Edu that Galen Erso is at. with the planet with all the mountains and the rain and everything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The design is exactly the same, which makes sense. Why
Yeah.
would the Empire would have a stock base that they
Right.
would build
Yeah.
everywhere?
They have a stock floor plan, right?
Yeah, luckily there's no shortage of steep cliff faces for them to build their bases on.
I mean, we know they liked
ladder.
consistency. They liked lowest
Sure.
bidders and stuff like that. So,
And it saves the production a little bit on the design.
yeah.
Yeah, I was watching this the other day, and that hologram came up, and it was driving me crazy. That looks familiar. Where have I seen that before?
Yeah, that's a good catch. I didn't think.
Yeah,
about
I would
that.
imagine in Imperial contracts, the line item for design budget is probably pretty low.
Yeah.
They
They're
kept
not
the
big
actual
on-
design work to a minimum.
Not big on architectural flair.
Exactly.
And here we are zooming down the canyon.
Oh,
So
right.
his speeder is just a slight modification on Luke's speeder from the original film. It's just a few little cosmetic changes, but the shape is basically the same.
Yeah, it reminds me of like our cars in the real world, right?
Mhm.
Like basic car design can change a little bit, but it's just
It's a car, yeah.
four wheels and a
Right.
body. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, look at the front. The front grille is just like Luke's speeder.
yeah. But they're able to just drive right up.
Yeah.
They
Nobody
don't
there's
have
no
security
perimeter.
cameras.
I mean, this would be like whatever the stock car is for like a cab,
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
a Chevy Caprice or something.
Mhm. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, they don't even do it at night either. They just kind of
Just walk right up. Well, so do they think the base is empty? They're or that there's not much going on. They're not aware that it's a fully functional base. I don't think. Otherwise, they might have brought more than 3 people.
Park your
Start
gills.
hydrating.
30 more years of debt.
A reluctant hero here.
A reluctant comedy relief.
I'm assuming it is Horatio Sands playing him again.
Yeah, it is. My impression is that people are lining up to be on the show, so they don't really
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
need to.
A lot of Star Wars fans that are actors, I'm sure.
Mhm.
it's interesting how like they don't really have a plan going into this, right? They're
No.
like, well, we'll kind of do this and see what happens, and then after that, we have a concept, not a plan.
Right.
As good as Luke Skywalker going into Jabba's palace here.
I think that's a theme with Greef. I mean,
Yeah.
it does seem to be that there's a recurring motif with anytime he gets involved with Greef Karga, plans seem to not always be the most solid thing that he's good at.
No, he doesn't think things through very well. Lovely classic stormtrooper.
Another elevator, a little classic thing in Star Wars movies. Getting
Oh, yes, that's true.
And he's already taken out like what 4 or 5.
Right. And that's nice that happens off screen, because at this point, watching him shoot stormtroopers is kind of boring. He does it so often. We don't need to see it every time.
And of course, there's no railing here off of that.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. There's never a railing.
platform.
There is no safety
Yeah.
department in the Empire.
There's no OSHA in the Star
Yeah, I
Wars.
was going to say the OSHA department in the Empire was basically non-existent.
Right. And there was that. We just saw the Imperial troop transport. I had one of those toys when I was a kid. I wish I still had it.
You can buy it on
Yeah,
Amazon.
I'm sure
for $8.
Dale does. Dale or Shane probably do.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have so many friends who have Star Wars rooms.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't really have anything left from when I was a kid. I have a few things that I bought as an adult, but
Yeah, I have stuff that as an adult people have given me.
The stuff from today seems a lot better too, a lot more realistic
a
too.
lot more detailed.
Yeah.
Although those, I mean, in 1978, when those action figures came out, those were magical. They were just amazing to a 6-year-old.
Yeah. Well, we had imaginations too, so.
Well, and for the time they were good, but I just remember just being so enraptured by just the texture of them and the shape of them and everything.
Jawas had a cloak.
The lightsaber in the arm that would extend
Yep.
out. That was
And those vinyl capes that they had that was kind of like a vest.
yeah.
And the Jawa was the only one with a cloth cape because it was so tiny. They figured they had to add value to it by by giving it a cloth outfit.
So they're doing some sneaking around here. It's
Mhm.
pretty good.
Base design is very similar to.
No railings, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Let's just peer over.
But yeah, I mean, this is all stuff right out of the original film. The whole
because
the walls look and
that whole power.
All very analog,
the
buttons and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the stuff that that great matte painting from the original of Obi-Wan Kenobi, at a
Shutting down
console
the
just like
tractor
that.
beams. Yeah.
yeah, and this
No
is
guardrail.
some
No
absurd. Yeah, no guardrail, and it's like 8 inches wide to get to the critical
there's a
control.
lava pit down there.
Yeah, it's like, why put that console there? What is the benefit to having the console there?
Right.
I mean,
Well, I mean, it's the console that controls the station, so maybe they thought we'll make it hard to get to, and people won't mess with it.
Well, this is probably like the override or something, right?
I
Like
mean,
they
literally,
make
you push a
focus.
button too hard, you're flying backwards into the lava pit.
Mhm.
Press the off button.
Well, when you think about it like that, even like the control screens, the color scheme is right out of the original film.
That's
That
right off of the original.
silver and red and black color scheme.
The hallways, I mean, it's all very reminiscent of the Death Star.
Yeah, more
they have
so
some pretty
than a
good
lot of
physical sets for this show, for this particular episode. It's really good because this is not CGI. A lot of this.
No, I don't think
No,
so.
these are
The bigger panoramic shots are, but
I do think it's probably like 2 corridors that they're just reusing and shooting from different angles.
Sure.
The people running this base seem really dedicated to their job. I mean, for people who work for an empire it's kind of on its way out at this point.
Yeah.
Well, here's all the clone tanks.
You ever
Now,
see the
tell me,
Disney
I was
clones?
trying to figure this out the other day. Tell me if you think the gross cloney things in there look like Snoke from the sequel series.
I think it's part of just this whole cloning program that the Empire is trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think Palpatine's behind it. And so, they're trying to get this research figured out as best they can before they have, their for real clone, their most successful one, which is Snoke. So
Yeah.
I think it's where it's going.
Yeah, there was basically 30 years of government contracts like spread out among there of all these different efforts to try to get the process right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Pershing
they don't get the memo that the Empire has fallen. Yeah.
Right. Or they can't they're in denial because what are these guys going to do if they're not going to be Imperial officers? What are they going to do?
Yeah.
A donor with a higher M count. Of course, that's midichlorian.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
I just can't say it.
Yeah.
They have monkeypox, mpox now. Just
the people making this newer stuff have been pretty clever about having their cake and eating it too. They make references, a lot of references to the prequel trilogy, but without making references to the prequel trilogy.
Yep.
So yeah, Pershing saying they want to try to get Baby Yoda again.
Mhm.
They want to try to get some more blood from him. Give that blood to Moff Gideon. Ultimately, for this lab project right here, the clones, enhanced, force-powered, midichlorian-powered clones.
Mhm. Here's more stuff right out of the original film. This is great, though. I think this episode kind of gets pushed to the background given all the other stuff that happens in this season, but it's a terrific episode. It really
it's a really good action-packed.
Yeah,
kind of mystery,
and a lot of
great
callbacks to the original films.
Even just the wipe across the screen there,
yeah.
Very much an original episode wipe.
Yeah, I don't know whether the director makes all of those decisions, but if so, then he at least he went back and watched the movie again.
Yeah,
I think he.
But it's also good because it does plant the seed for other, overarching plot points that happen in Mandalorian, right? So you do have things like, this little bit here, right, about clones and why they were trying to get Yoda, to get his blood for some sort of like force-enhanced clones. And so that's like a little plot point that happens throughout Mandalorian here.
Sure. Well, and even establishing that maybe the Empire's not quite as dead as we were led to believe.
Yeah.
They seem
They're
pretty
still
active.
around.
There they go.
Now, what we want to see there is when the stormtrooper goes this way and he goes to that tiny little walkway. We want to see them fall off. I mean, that's
Right. Well, we're seeing a lot of stormtroopers falling to their deaths today, though.
I just like how Mando landed with a 3-point landing, just like
Oh yeah, yeah, that was
power
good.
pose.
So now they just need to get the heck out of Dodge.
Right.
Good luck to them.
Now that very heavy door with the kind of bottom part of it was very reminiscent of Jabba's.
Jabba's palace, and here we are, more getting shot. This episode, as soon as they arrive at the base, it's pretty much nonstop action for the rest of the episode. It's great.
Yeah. I mean, he really established himself as a good director for this kind of stuff. I mean, he's like, I get to do a Star Wars,
Yeah. Well, and he's been in enough movies like this that you would expect him to be good at this.
I mean, he was a very big action star in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, he was.
He was Action Jackson.
He was Action Jackson. He was in Predator.
Yep.
One of the greatest action films of all time.
Yep. Multiple Rockies.
Here we go, the getaway.
And you've got the fun dialogue, the kind of snappy comebacks and stuff.
Yep.
And this next sequence here, this is a kid playing in the sandbox with his toys.
Yeah.
It really is the what's about to happen. Oh,
Make
the
up
door
your own,
closed. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we'll do this.
Well, and you never see that. You always see the skating just under the door when it's about to close. I mean, it's like that would not happen as often as the door closing first.
There we go. Yeah, knocking the stormtrooper toys off the structure they built, and down it goes. Crunch.
Oh, so much for the ride. Good thing he wasn't waiting in the land speeder.
Yeah, when things don't go perfect, because things don't go perfect when you're doing this kind of thing.
No sympathy that they just crushed his speeder.
This is a little. And here comes some more toys.
Yes.
Right.
Sweet.
Okay, now send the speeder bikes in
A bunch of speeder bikes.
off the edge of the deck or the porch.
Ooh.
In each other.
Yeah, but even the camera work in this episode is really good. I hadn't really picked up on that before, but the way he bounces the camera especially when the van crashed when it landed, it's subtle and it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, plus these stormtroopers doing things to these land speeder that they're speeders that it's not designed to do. They're not supposed to go off of a cliff and be able to bounce on air and going,
Yeah, they showed some guts doing that.
They
right?
did.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely intended to just be completely lateral. They're never really supposed to be going vertical.
Right. Yeah, they're not meant to actually fly, I don't think.
Yeah, they're hover vehicles.
Right. And here his gunnery chair is just like the one in the Millennium Falcon in the original film.
Cool.
The graphics on the little targeting screen are the same too.
Yeah, from an action sequence, I mean, once they kind of, like you said, once they enter the structure, it's very much a lot of the episode 4.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that's great about episode 4 too. He's calling back on the right details, I think.
So they literally don't have a window screen on these. It's like open so that they can shoot in and get you with their blaster.
Well, the toy did. It's the same as the toy. The only thing they don't have that the toy did was it had had buttons on the top, and you would press them, and they'd play dialogue from the film. There'd be an R2 button, and they don't appear to have that in their vehicle that they've stolen.
This is interesting here. They look like Moff Gideon's TIE fighters, right? The way that
the advanced,
and then they straighten out.
Advanced design, advanced interceptor.
Like in Force Awakens, they're hanging in racks.
Right.
You don't see, you don't ever really see them take off. They just come out of Star Destroyers and the original trilogy.
They could have used those about 5 years earlier.
Yeah, I think we just never saw them land before. I mean, that's
right. Seems like a ladder would have been easier than having them fold down like that, but maybe I'm just being a spoilsport.
Well, either way, Cara Dune here is having a good time.
She is. They all are. You can tell. I mean, they're all. I think a lot of times when you watch movies and TV shows, you can really tell whether or not the actors are having fun, even if they're not playing. Even if they're playing serious.
Yeah.
I think you can often tell when they're having.
Greef is not the best marksman ever.
Yeah, he's
Shooting from a moving vehicle is not easy, I imagine. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him some slack.
Bureaucrat, right? I mean, he's not a
Yeah,
warrior.
You want to
Yeah.
come back here and try this? Yeah, it's like
Yeah, and he's not doing bad. He's hit quite a few things.
He's hitting that wall's pretty good.
yeah, he's the walls are taking a beating. Yeah, those walls will never mess with him again.
They will not. They should know better.
But still, yeah, that's tough because the ties are a lot more maneuverable, and just anytime you're shooting from the ground up to the air is hard.
He's happy he hit something.
He nicks one finally.
Whoa, look out.
oh, he's got his gun.
Yeah, took out his own gun.
Okay, so we'll call that a draw. Here come the ties.
It's some evasive maneuvers here. It's not looking good for our heroes.
It never is. Oh, here we go. The cavalry's here.
Yes, the cavalry has arrived. They've fixed up the Razor Crest,
Mhm.
Just in time.
And we got cookies.
and he got the macaron.
He's celebrating already.
Woo! It's like it's riding a roller coaster.
Wonder if he has blue milk with it.
I bet you if you dip one of those into white milk, you're going to get blue milk.
Blue milk, yeah.
Dunk it in there.
Delicious cookies. Although I think he might be eating too much sugar. It's not good for you.
Yeah, he's getting way too hyper. He's got
Yeah,
a
he is.
sugar high going on there.
Yeah, he needs to calm down.
Ship's
We're
looking
getting
good.
like a lot of love here for
Yeah.
ship. This is awesome.
Yeah. Ship's looking a lot better.
This is how it's supposed to perform.
Although if we keep spinning like that, the Baby O is going to puke blue macaroni
Yeah.
all over
Yep.
the cockpit.
Yeah, he's
That was-
a much better shot.
Yes, he is. I was noticing the other day when I was watching this, the design of the Razor Crest is similar to the ship in Firefly.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
very
yeah,
similar
Yeah, it is.
silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, and there we go.
Oh, there we
go.
He did in fact throw up the
Too
macaron.
much fun.
I've been there.
Yep.
Gotta have your treat after the roller coaster, not
Well,
before.
he's coming along as a parent. He cleaned him up a little bit.
He'll figure it. All right.
Yep.
All right,
Short
our friends say
and sweet.
goodbye to each other.
Yep.
Oh,
they ended up
not big on goodbyes.
Transport after all. Oh, here's the man here to hassle them.
Yep. The cops arrive way too late.
This is great too because it kind of shows us that people like Greef on the Outer Rim don't really see the New Republic as being that different from the Empire. Maybe they're a little more polite, but they're still just there to hassle us and interfere in our business, and they're not.
Well,
here
I
to
think they think of them being as very ineffective and not around when they need them, right?
Plus, it's probably just that attitude about Outer Rim versus you know middle of the galaxy corporate bureaucrats. You know?
Sure. Yeah, out in the Wild West, they
Yep.
have a more libertarian point of view. They don't really want guys in orange jumpsuits showing up and hassling them all the time.
But they'll ask for their help when they need it.
Yes.
Is this the only time these two meet? Carson Tatum and Cara Dune?
What's that?
Is this the only time these two characters meet?
I'm not sure. She's only in a couple more episodes. I think she in the finale of this season, and then that's pretty much it for her, right?
Yeah, she doesn't come back for the third season.
No.
Yeah, but here she gets another job offer.
Kerfuffle with
Right.
Disney.
This is straight out of. We talked about westerns a few weeks ago. This is like a classic scene from every western. Hey, will you be the The sheriff? No.
Yeah. Will you join up with us? I'm not much of a joiner.
Right.
But it's like, the national government trying to, ask and recruit help from the locals.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
Yep, and asking her about Alderaan, which we saw get taken out in another reference to episode 4. That she lost everyone she knew on Alderaan, so she's really got nowhere to go.
But not interested in
working for the man.
Yeah, working for the man.
But we do know that this was kind of the soft pilot for what was supposed to be another spin-off show that was going to be her. That was the Rangers of the New Republic, which ended up getting canceled.
I wonder, I mean, that I'm sure that would have been fun, but at the same time, I wonder if that would have been too similar to what we've already seen. It would have just been a whole series of episodes like this one.
Well, but I think this show was now going off in a direction where it was going to really start veering from that standard story that it was telling of that Western riding into a town, and we're going to start getting into that whole following up on Rebels and Clone Wars,
right?
Long form storylines that we've been building up to here, and it's really going to start going in that direction now. And Rangers of the New Republic probably could have been the continuation of that look and feel.
Yeah, I forgot this actor was in this show.
Yep.
They show up in Andor, of course. Right?
No, she reappears here as this character, Denise O'Brien. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she comes back in third season. Well, later in this season as well.
Yeah, but I was thinking that same thing, James, for a minute, because the storyline that she's in the third season of this is very Andor-y. I felt like it's a storyline that would be more at home in Andor than in this, I think. But Andor would be like 10 or 15 years before this, I think.
Yeah.
So here's Moff Gideon, the ongoing plot of trying to get Baby Yoda, and then his own kind of personal machinations here too, of these dark troopers all lined up and trying to get them ready for battle. And of course they are Chekhov's gun. We're not going to see them here and not have them come back in some way.
Right.
Yeah.
Directed by Carl Weathers.
And an excellent job he did too.
Written by Jon Favreau, of course.
I actually really enjoy these concept art things that they always show at the end of every episode.
See kind of conceptually what they want to do with the episode, what they want to show off, the mood, the atmosphere, the lighting, kind of.
I wonder if they sell these. They're really cool. I'd love to have some of them.
Yeah, they did. There's a couple of books. There's The Art of the Mandalorian. There's two volumes of that. I bought both of those, and they have a few of them, but not all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You all are talking about them, and I cut them off, but just because we were running a little long on time there.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure everybody who is watching us here has probably already seen the episode and can watch it all the way through. Enjoy all the concept art at the end of all the episodes.
Right. Yeah, it is a nice touch that they have, though.
It's a good episode.
Well, yeah. Final thoughts?
I mean, like you said, a really rip-roaring, great action episode. It was a great showcase for Carl Weathers coming in as a director for the show.
Yep. It's a good episode.
All right. Well, James, why don't you tell us what's going on with the Rocky Mountain Fan Force right now?
Yeah, so Rocky Mountain Fan Force, we get together. We usually get together once a month as well. We'll get together at a restaurant or do some other activity. We basically hang out and talk about Star Wars. So we're probably going to be doing a barbecue maybe later July, might push into August, but keep a lookout on our Facebook page, Rocky Mountain Fan Force, and you can see any upcoming events there as well. And then, of course, this weekend is Fan Expo in Denver. Michael and Jonathan, I believe, are going to be participating with the other groups, and we'll have tables with the other Star Wars groups, Mountain Garrison and Rebel Legion. Stop by and see them. They'll be working a couple days. And yeah, just go enjoy the activities, and you'll probably run into some of us this weekend. Jonathan and Michael, did you have anything to add where they can find you guys at Fan Expo?
I think by the time this comes out, Fan Expo may be over. But
yeah.
that's you there.
For the few people that are watching us live, yes, Fan Expo Denver this weekend. But when this episode comes out, it'll be after the convention.
True.
But speaking of live, do we have any live questions as we're going along here? Anything come through?
There haven't been any come in. No.
All right, no worries. Just wanted to check and make sure we respect and give props to any of our live viewers. So, Hello everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you. All right, and then the obligatory, don't forget to like and subscribe at Binging the Force on YouTube and buy our merch at bingingtheforce.myspreadshop.com. You can listen to the podcast on any podcast clients. Just look up Binging the Force and join us on Facebook at the Rocky Mountain Fan Force.
And for the people who are watching us live, stick around. We are going to do a bonus episode for the following week for the 4th of July week because we'll be taking that week off. But we will have an episode come out that we're going to record right after this.
All right.
All right. May the Star Wars toys be with you.
Indeed.